You are now listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc, sharing insights through real, honest, and practical ways to improve your communication and relationships. Featuring your hosts, Dr. Pamela Kreiser, Meredith Edwards-Nagel, and Teighlor Polendo.
Well, just like that, the holidays are here. Can you believe it? It's so interesting when the holidays come because I like to think that everything's always going to be the same. But you might have a different experience going on right now. You might be bringing someone new to your home. And as you and I do that, what's so funny about that experience is we bring in outsiders to take a look at what was always considered normal to you and me. You know, the normal way we do things. Maybe you have rules of how you have to talk to people, or who you have to kiss, or who you have to hug, or who gets to open the gifts first, or maybe even who eats first. Well, this episode, we're going to talk about all of those fun things that are traditions or rules in our families. Now, if you've been following our podcast or you've been watching us on YouTube, you know that we're doing the Family Survival Kit. And so what does that mean? Well, we're talking for 6 episodes about ways that you and I can improve our communication as we talk with our families. And so I'm here with Meredith Edwards-Nagel and Teighlor Polendo, and they are hosts with me on the podcast Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc, and that's me. I'm Dr. Pamela Kreiser. And so today we're going to be talking about specifically how we approach the holidays. But before we do that, I want us to do a quiz because I like to do quizzes. So this one's about Thanksgiving.
You surprised me again. How did I not know this?
So this one's about Thanksgiving, and I know you're excited about it. So I like to spring these quizzes, but I want you to take the quiz too. So don't forget to take it yourself. Okay. So
why do we get surprised? Why?
You get surprised each time, but we have them each
I was
time.
ready for what was next, and it was not this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a pretty tough question out of the box. Okay. I'm just gonna say it. Okay. So all but one of these countries celebrate their version of Thanksgiving Day.
Okay.
Okay. So all of them except for one. So which country doesn't make the list? China, Liberia, Canada, Germany, France.
Actually, Canada.
Wrong.
Damn it.
Oh wait, but then I gave an advantage to her.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
I'll take it.
I might have invalidated this question.
Well, process of elimination for Teighlor.
I still probably won't get this right. France, Liberia, Germany. What was the other one? China. That's it.
So your choices of who doesn't make the list: China, Liberia. It's not Canada, Germany, France.
France. I don't know.
France. You got it. So all of these countries.
I was about to be like, cheers, man.
Yeah, she's doing sportsmanship cheers. So, you know, what can we say? All right, so that's our warm-up question. We're going to call that our warm-up question. Okay, you ready for the actual
I'm ready.
quiz? Okay. All right, so according to the National Turkey Federation, how many turkeys are eaten each Thanksgiving in the United States? How many turkeys? So not pounds.
This is disgusting. I honestly don't even know.
Okay. So I'm going to make it a little easier because the last one was so hard. Here are your choices. You ready?
Oh, you have choices.
I'm going to give you choices just because I feel very sad for both of you.
I feel bad for the
Okay.
turkeys.
All right. 95 million, 5 million, 46 million, 64 million.
Jesus,
64.
what is wrong with us?
That's a lot of turkeys, yeah.
See, read them again.
95 million, 5 million, 46 million, 64 million.
I say 64.
46.
And the answer is 46. Okay. All right. In a survey about holiday food preferences, Americans identified a certain holiday favorite food. So the question is, what would someone in America write down as their favorite food? No help this time.
Mashed potatoes gravy.
Oh, that's a good one. Can you do dessert?
Cannot provide you with guidance.
Listen to our previous episode where Teighlor is a cheater.
I know. I'm thinking about that too. Okay.
That's right.
I think that's the answer. So stuffing.
The answer is roasted potatoes. Second was mashed potatoes. Third was turkey.
So you even on like the list.
Nice.
So you both didn't get that one. Okay, let's see who can get this last one. What percentage of Americans shop on Thanksgiving because retailers offer better deals than they do on Black Friday? What percentage? And you looked like you were looking at my card. Did you look at the card?
No, and honestly, it wouldn't matter because I don't have my glasses on. Cannot read it.
I'm putting it upside down just for test security.
Okay, you go first.
I'm good at number stuff.
You
Let
always
me
get
pull up
the
my
number
calculator.
answers right.
Oh, her calculator.
my
Yeah.
calculator.
I don't know what math you did, but you.
I don't know if we have a calculator around the set here. I guess not.
I say 30%.
I'm going to have a drink.
I'm gonna say 37%.
What did you say?
30.
30? You said 37? 39.
Dang, I am good at the number stuff.
I think you all lost.
I'm-
That's what I think.
But I got
Yeah,
the closest. but I got the closest.
We'll give it to you.
How do I get close to these numbers things though?
You're
Like,
really
I'm
good at
not.
numbers,
I don't know. I'm
actually.
horrible at numbers.
No, when we
My
think,
nephew would be proud.
yeah, when you think about the statistics, of course, that's just fun and games. Obviously, we're playing a game. But when we think about the holidays and Thanksgiving or whatever holidays you celebrate, think about the rules that might be in place or unique to your family. So, for example, in my family, on Christmas morning, we always have canned fruit. Now, we live in Southern California, as you know, where we have very fresh fruit all the time. And when my husband married into the family, he wondered why we had canned fruit. And the answer is because we do. And he suggested we have different fruit, and everyone looked at him like, why would you ever consider having anything other than canned fruit?
Tradition rule.
And not just canned fruit, we have canned pears and peaches. Those are the two fruits allowed. I have since expanded to mandarin oranges, and it's had some controversy. So that's the rule,
Okay.
right? So the question is, what are some unique things about your homes?
I'm thinking one that's pretty probably generic is like there's a spot at the table. Like there's a rule
Oh, yeah.
for who sits where.
Sure.
You know, like X person sits at the head of the table, or you can't take grandma's spot, or however it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm always on one side of the table, and my brother's always on the opposite. It's just always like that. It's one of the, that's one
And
of the
so
things-
what would happen if Teighlor ran in there and sat in your brother's chair? Would everyone look at Teighlor? Like, what would
I
happen?
mean, why would she be invited to my holiday dinner? Just kidding. I love you. Yeah. I mean,
What would they do?
But like when I've brought like a partner to a table, I navigate them. Like this is where you sit, at my house. And I think usually if I'm new to someone's holiday, I now have a person, so I only go to one family. But
Yeah, but right.
it's a really weird way to explain that. In my past, where
In the journey.
go to the person, and like where do we sit?
Yeah.
In my head there's just
So what rules are here already?
yeah, like I don't know. I've never had now there's new little people like nieces and nephews, and they try to like change up the rule. Like they tell you like I'm gonna
Yeah.
sit in between you, and
Yeah.
it's almost, and I'm learning like do I tell them no, like this is the way we sit, or let them adjust it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think one I think of is my friend's rule that she's trying to change, and that's like when grandparents give grandkids gifts, there is an expectation that they have to give a physical affection back. And so it's like, oh, well, kiss grandma or kiss grandpa. Like, you have to, and my friend is saying, like, no, that's not a thing. You need to thank them, but you choose how you want to do that. So that's like kind of, I guess, a family rule that is in place for a lot of families, but wanting to be changed.
Yeah, there's like rules about how you show affection.
Yeah.
Or whether you, like some families kiss on the lips, some don't kiss, some don't hug.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's, I mean, really different. For sure, culture plays a role, of course, right?
Yeah. Can I get into a story?
Yeah,
on
do
that?
it. Yeah.
I asked a friend. Really do it.
That means she has a friend.
I have like one besides you guys. But no, genuinely, I have this friend, and her husband are in an intercultural relationship. They're different family cultures, and essentially their big thing is like the greetings and goodbyes. So in her family, it's very like you go to the elders, right? But you don't have to be all touchy. And when you leave, you say thank you to the host and you leave. It's like this. It's more of a quiet interaction. I think that's the word I'd use. Respectful and polite, but it's like you keep to yourself, sort of.
Sure.
Where her husband's family is very affectionate, and you have to. It was funny. She was explaining to me, like, sometimes you don't want to just be touching everyone when you leave, you know, but they have to hug everyone, tell them, you know, I love you, you know, and that's an interesting norm, or like it's that balance, like that weight, whatever, like tradition, rule, tradition, rule.
Sure.
You know, like, so I think navigating that will be interesting as they create their own family. How do they tell their kids? Is it what to operate one way in one family, one way in another way?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a tricky one, because we had that with our kids where there were different rules about showing affection, you know, hugging versus kissing on the lips. And for me, that was, you didn't do that.
Yeah.
The kissing on the lips part, not that you wouldn't in another culture, you know. And that was an interesting thing. We had to talk all the way through it. And, you know, usually you defend whatever you grew up with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And say, we're the normal people.
Right.
You're the weird family.
Okay.
So one of the phrases that we like to use in this space is to say, you know, it's funny how we use better and appropriate language with like strangers, but when we're talking about our families, we're like, your family's weird. And you can't call anyone else weird, but you call your own family weird, or your you know, spouse's family, and you say, and that, why are they weird? Because they're different. Really? So you're the center of the universe, right? I mean, that's kind of a funny, kind of a crazy thing, right? If everyone who doesn't do it how you do it is weird, that sounds a bit centric to me.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we have to admit we've done that.
Yeah, I think so. You know, one thing that strikes me that's so interesting is how these rules come into play. Like, where do they come from? Right? And so it's not like you're a baby and then their parents post on the crib, like, here's the rules you're going to have to go through, right? You know, these are it's like at the pool where they post to the conduct that needs to happen, right? So you don't have that posted. So how do you learn it, at least in the U.S.? You learn it by when you break it. You learn it by, hey, grandma just came in, go kiss her.
Yeah.
Or you're not allowed to sit there. Everyone knows that. Or you're not opening the gift before grandpa. But we teach it. It's unfortunately, we teach it by negative example.
Yeah.
And say, you did that thing bad. And instead of being proactive. So, of course, you know what that's going to lead to. Me saying we need to plan.
Oh, God.
You saw that coming, right?
Yeah,
Unlike the quiz. Unlike the quiz. Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting thing. But when we had our kids, when we had the differences with the displaying affection, we had to like really talk through that and kind of say, okay, so if you make a child do something in terms of parenting, there's one thing, but then it's in terms of them as a human. And saying, should I be in a position where I tell someone how to physically engage with another person physically, right? It's kind of an interesting puzzle.
I think we forget that kids are humans.
I kind of like
your own children.
You're not a robot or a dog. Do what I say. Do what I say.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember one of our kids was uncomfortable with somebody at one point and said, I don't know if I want to hug them. And the question is, do you have to, right? And I don't think that's an easy space. We ended up saying, no, you don't have to. Because if you don't feel like it's what you want to do, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Now, how do you manage that in the bigger family experience?
Yeah.
That's a tricky one. So you have to kind of role play it or talk through, you know, we can talk through some strategies, but it's kind of a tricky little dance there. And so that's kind of interesting because you guys have younger families, right? So you kind of decide, there's the extended family rules, and then there's what do you want to be your rules? Let's take Polendos, right?
Yeah.
So you've got these two little boys. What are the Polendo? There's like Polendo rules, and then there's your family of origin rules and his family of origin rules.
Yeah, we have some differences. I think for me personally, I think that you need to greet a human, like if they come into your home or if you go into their home. So I'm letting them choose how they do that, but like you have to acknowledge. So if I say like, oh, give them a hug, and I see her resisting, then I'm like, can you give them a fist bump or a wave or just say hello or shake their hand, like whatever it is. So I did notice, I think there's a difference, like you start dating someone and you see some of the family rules, and then you've been with them a long time, or you marry them, and you get a new dose of family rules, and then you have kids, and you're like exposed to all these family rules that, I mean, you may have been in the family like nearly a decade, and then you're like, wow, where did these rules come from?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't have little kids around, so you didn't
Oh,
see
that's
them.
good. That's a good point. Yeah.
And so we have the first grandchild, both two grandchildren, on both sides of the family.
Oh, so you're the pioneers.
Pioneers.
Oh,
just
my
like
God.
through the trenches.
It's very Thanksgiving.
It's very
You're the discovery
lots
team.
of opportunities to learn. So a big difference was like having a newborn, and one side of our family, they leave like a 4 to 6 foot barrier, and you don't go near the newborn, and you're not too loud, and unless you're invited to, like, oh, do you want to hold him? You know, you don't ask, and that was just normal for me.
I'm sensing that's from her family. So what does the weird family do?
So then the weirdos, they're just, everyone crowds the baby, camera, boom, 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 in the face. Very loud. I was sitting there kind of like, I'm overwhelmed. What is this new little person who has barely been on this earth feeling? Didn't seem to have a problem with it, but I was just like, well, this is different.
Yeah.
Even to the point where I put, like, strapped him. That was someone's suggestion. Why don't you strap the baby to yourself? No one, will come up to this little space of yours. That's not true. They'll move the carrier and then kiss them right here. I'm like, oh, that is very close.
It's a very intimate
Very
reaction.
intimate. They're right there. And obviously, no harm, no foul. Nothing happened, but I was just surprised. I'm like wiping that red lipstick off.
Off the baby's head.
Off the baby's head. That was weird to me.
Yeah.
That was not expected.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the hardest way to manage interaction rules, I'd say, or family rules, is when they're broken in the moment.
Yes.
Because in the moment seems like maybe the worst time to manage it.
Yeah. Well, and if you're like me, you just freeze or you don't say anything. Like, I don't know, some people maybe can. I can't do that.
I think she's trying to bring us back to planning.
I'm always trying to bring us back to planning.
So, like, in the moment, meaning don't react to problems when you're in the place, but if you know your family operates a certain way, how to get prepared for it.
Yeah. So
I think so. I don't
know.
So
it's
what are we
homework.
doing?
It's like homework.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an interesting question. Like, so we, one of the things that is an interaction rule in my family, we have a very large holiday gathering that's not for any one holiday. It's like the big family party. And it kind of covers every holiday, right?
Okay.
And so when we celebrate that holiday, it's usually like 75 to 100 people. It's like the whole extended family, not very many guests.
Incredible.
You're expected to know all the names of everybody. And the other thing is you're expected to personally greet everyone when you arrive. So we have, in our planning meeting, so my kids are adult children, right? We have it, because they'll say this is exhausting to arrive and have to greet 100 people. It takes like an hour, or longer, a long time.
Okay.
And they want to get to the buffet and to the cocktails and all that good stuff. So we know as a family, if we arrive earlier, there's fewer people to greet, and then the people who come have to greet us.
Sometimes planning
It's
is just good
strategy,
for you.
Right? So we, as a family, actually arrive like right on time or even a little early so that we reduce our workload by half.
Very mischievous, but I like it.
Well, if you can't change the rule, then figure out how to go around it, right?
Or
And then they have to find me, and if they didn't find me, that's on them.
Alright.
Right?
Okay, I kind of like that.
Probably not a great strategy, but I guess it points to planning, so that's positive, right?
I'm thinking of another rule in my family, where it's kind of like an observation, mine and also some I've seen in other families as well, about like the rule of how to open a gift, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say this is sort of like fast versus slow. So in our family, it was very like methodical, like
I'm tired already.
yeah, it's like someone gets passed a gift, everyone watches the one person,
Yeah.
you'll be thankful for
Yeah.
that. That person that
Oh,
opened
boy.
gets to pick the next gift for the next person, and then it kind of popcorns.
Yeah.
But the principle for me that's normal, or that's the rule, the way it should be, is that it's a slow, meaningful process, and that everyone is interested in the one person, and then everyone else gets a turn for that. Where the reverse, that's the slow, that's the tired
Yeah.
that you're feeling.
Yeah.
But I like it. I
It's good for a while.
With
the reason I'm
75
tired.
people, that's a lot.
Oh, we don't do gift opening.
Oh, okay.
No.
The reason you're tired is what?
It's just, it sounds like it takes hours. Does it take hours?
It's Christmas morning.
Yeah.
So you're like, people get up and eat and whatever, and you eat and hang out. But there's not that many of us.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in my, like, core family, there's, like, I mean, some cousins will come, so it's, like, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And now that there's nieces and nephews, I mean, most of the focus is with the kids anyway. But,
Yeah.
So anyway, the reverse of that, which is the different, or, I don't know, I'm air quoting a lot of things right now. But is
It's
that,
okay.
yeah, is I've seen in some families where it's like, hurry up, rush, everybody rip everything
Yeah.
open, and it's like this. For me, it gave me like anxiety watching it. It's like,
Right.
it's like, oh my god, like it's this like greedy chaos of
Yeah.
like just a bunch of shit, and that for me seems like when I think about it, feels like a rule to me that seems like almost wrong. I don't know how to change
And
it.
it's
That's
Because
like putting
it's
some
not your
judgment on
fam.
there.
It's not your family.
Yeah, but I don't know how to change that. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm supposed to. I don't know. I mean, and it'll be interesting, you know, when I want to start my own family, like what rules or traditions we'll take on and pick what and where
Yeah.
and why, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But it's interesting to watch like different nieces and nephews' families and how they choose that. So
I feel like one of the first steps to managing interaction rules is just talking about what exists. If you have someone coming over for the first time, or
Okay.
coming over as married for the first time, or whatever, you know, whatever transition they're in terms of roles, like you have your first child or something like that. And I think your partner could be blindsided to that if you didn't know, like,
Yeah.
hey, there's this fruitcake thing, and you have to have a bite of it because it's Aunt Linda's fruitcake. You know.
It's just
Yeah.
what you do.
it's just
No, I mean,
yeah.
some of that exists though.
Yeah, really.
And so it's like you have to, it's good to have a heads up on that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I could see that being helpful if you're the new person going in. You need the communication beforehand.
Right. And then, of course, what always happens is that new person says, why do you do that? And you say, because that's the right way.
So how are we gonna be better at this?
Yeah. It's the golden
I
question,
feel
right?
like this is a very like I'm realizing in myself. This is a very judgy thing, but I don't know how to resist it.
What I hear you saying is like a need for boundaries or what works for you. And I mean, maybe opening gifts isn't that big of a deal. But maybe for something that matters a bit more, you need a boundary in place and you get to pick, like for yourself, what you want and for your family. So, like for me, a big one is what my kids eat. And I feel like I'm still trying to learn how to communicate that boundary. Like the very first Thanksgiving I had, he wasn't even a year old, and all of a sudden someone was feeding him sugar, like straight sugar. I was like, "Well, how did that happen? Where
Yeah.
do we?" It's from a person who like knows my family very well and knows that I don't feed my kid sugar. So I was like,
Yeah.
what just happened here?
Right.
So that did not work for me. But with boundaries, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, you shouldn't maybe be doing it in the moment, in the violation of it. Because like when that happened, I just kind of flew off at my siblings. What are you doing? We don't do that. Like all
Right.
these
It's like the fly apart
And I
on
was-
the,
yeah, I was like-
yeah.
But back to our boundaries series, it was create, state, maintain. So I needed
Yeah.
to state my boundary beforehand.
Yeah.
What works for me? I feel like this works for me. This doesn't work for me. Create it, state it, and then maintain it. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
sort of like the old model we talked about with the posting on the crib, right? It's
Yeah.
like your siblings don't know what your rules are, so if you
Right.
don't state them,
right.
they're just going to violate them and you're going to yell. I mean, that's the old system, right?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing. And I think even backing it up further to say, don't forget the create part of the boundary, which is having that conversation about whether it matters enough to have it be a boundary.
Yeah.
And what do we want for our family or for my child or our child, whatever.
Which you
right?
really have to know yourself or have that
Yeah.
conversation. What do we want? And take that time to kind of do that preparation.
And we always found with our little kids at a lot of these big parties, we had to decide what we wanted to manage.
Like,
Because it's if you police a
like
lot of
priority
things,
of
you're going to be
things?
policing a lot of things during the party. And if you don't communicate those things, then there's more things out of control at a big party.
Yeah.
So then you have the 2-year-old drinking an orange soda in the corner and it's their 5th one.
Yeah.
Oh my
Not
goodness.
that that's a real story, but it might be.
So for someone that doesn't have kids, I'm thinking of just like anting or adulting on a holiday.
Right.
And going into either an in-laws or my own family. And I'm thinking about, this makes sense in my mind, so I'm trying to make this connection.
Sure.
That in a recent episode we did with Jason Harper, he talks about, what was the title of that episode?
Oh, conflict.
Conflict. How to
resolve conflict.
How to resolve conflict.
Or manage conflict, yeah.
In that episode, he talks about figuring out unmet needs. So looking for those. And so knowing that in a lot of these traditions or rules, it seems like there's like these things that people need or think that they need. And I like that episode really helped me know like what are unmet needs people have. Like he made up something like belonging, like association. Yeah. That you have a part, that you have a voice in something. Sometimes people just want to have a voice in the family. You know, and if I think that's helpful to the boundaries. I'm trying to learn how to ask those questions or create more space for empathy, like you talked about. And then helps you get to know the room a little better, I guess, or why someone needs that rule, and if that can be okay, yours is health for your kids.
Or even, like, if you listen for the unmet need and the person needed acknowledgement, they need to be thanked or they needed to be held in some kind of esteem. If you heard that was being unmet, then it wasn't really ever about eating the fruitcake. It's that, is that aunt needed to be seen as someone who did something for the family. And then the rule maybe goes away in some level if we can meet the need, maybe.
Yeah, so learning that person wants to feel like they have a part in the family. So aunt so-and-so, uncle so-and-so, cousin, whatever. Like maybe just, is it just creating more empathy for someone? I mean, is that what that is? Or going into the holiday, like going, I'm going to try to see the room a little differently this time. Instead of just, this is the way it's supposed to be, because that's the way it's supposed to be, like, ask why.
Well, I like that, because if I look at the room, in my holiday gathering, I look at the room and I say, okay, so I'm looking at the room and I see it that way, I have way more compassion than these people are trying to control me and tell me what to do all the time. If I say, no, they're looking for connection, they're looking to be acknowledged, they're looking for a way to have equal treatment happen in the family or whatever the need is. If I see it not met, then I can address that versus just seeing it as, wow, everybody's weird and they're all trying to tell me what to do.
Which that would come back to like asking more questions, perception checking like we've talked about before, because really if we kind of assume something or know the judgment, maybe that recipe of the fruitcake from crazy aunt, whoever, is really passed down generations and it's a way of her honoring her parent. Like if we don't ask more questions and get down to their why, whether we think it's weird or not, it's kind of important to not assume and know, like place a judgment on something. You'd have to
that's
do
really
more
good.
digging.
And if it's really just service, can we just move it on? If we figure out that I don't want to use the word weird, but
we're using that word a lot.
There's a rule for no reason and we figure that out, just keep moving. And just maybe
maybe it's just a preference and we can just honor someone's preference.
That's like house rules though, right? Like whose house are you in?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're hosting, do you have to honor that rule? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting thing to think about how those rules play out. One thing that I would bring up is the concept of fractionation. And so fractionation, I don't know that we've even talked about that, but it's where you resize the conflict. So one thing that happens in conflict, and this is something that I do professionally, I manage a lot of conflict, is that people, instead of keeping the conflict small, they make it big. So instead of, let's say we're at the dinner table with your little kids and somebody says you have to finish everything on your plate, right? That's the rule. We are the clean plate club and you don't get to leave, you don't get to have, things on your plate when we're done. So let's say somebody's decided to put that rule down. You and I, when we're in that moment, can choose to make that conflict bigger by saying, you're so controlling all the time. Or you always tell me what to do, or you're always making such a big deal ordering my family around, or you don't respect me. These are huge things to be saying.
And genuine feelings maybe that you're having.
Well, right, but they're big.
That doesn't mean that's what's happening.
Right, so what I would say is you actually want to do the opposite in this case.
Okay.
So what you want to do is you want to do fractionation, which is where you you take it and make it smaller and say, okay, so let's just manage what's happening over the meal thing. Let's not actually decide that it means everything about our relationship is wrong or everything's changed about what we're, how we're interacting. Like, I don't need to make it our whole relationship at stake. And I would say in the holidays, fractionation is a really interesting concept to say, let's make that, we call it resizing the conflict. Let's take the conflict that could get very big and keep it right to the dinner table and say, you know what? We've made the choice. The kids aren't going to finish their plates. We understand you have this rule. We're not able to keep it today.
Okay. So that's interesting because it's like holidays, everything has meaning, right? Like
Maybe.
Everything has meaning. And so it's like, it sounds like what you're saying is not everything has to be this huge thing. Like, shut it down. Shut
it down because people, they drink, they stay up too late, they do lots of things that make them tired. They spend too much time together. They, you could get into all kinds of trouble, right, so to speak, and start saying what you think. Oh, no.
Oh, gosh. None of us say what we think.
Yelling how you feel. I mean, in that moment, like, we've seen disasters happen, right?
Yeah.
And so the question is that really everyone's fault? Maybe is you have more control over how big this gets than you think. And if you can fractionate down to a smaller and say, I'm not going to handle everything wrong in our relationship in this moment. All of the bad parenting you've done or grandparenting. I'm going to just talk about the plate and the food, and we're going to just do that.
Okay. That's a good lesson.
And I think that's a tool that I would say, we're talking about survival kits and we're talking about how to manage the holidays right in this series.
Yeah.
And I would say, put that one in your backpack and decide how big you want to make that battle. And if you have the chance to resize it, maybe choose to resize it smaller.
Yeah. So I think that I'll take that with me in terms of like other people are going to do other things in the family or whatever around me. And my job is to control how I respond to the event. Right? But the planning is knowing that that's going to happen and planning my tools, my survival kit for whatever random thing is going to happen that I have no control over. It's that moment I have control over, I guess, how I respond to it.
Yeah, and the other thing, remember that fractionation goes the other way. So let's say you're doing a one thing and somebody goes, you're always this way. You can say, oh no, we're just actually talking about gift opening.
Oh.
That's all.
Bringing them back.
We don't, we can resize it too. It's not just the conflict where you have a problem with it. If they have a problem with you, you don't need to allow them to make it into something that burns the house down, so to speak, emotionally.
Yeah.
We can just say, no, actually, it's just about leaving at 5 p.m. It's not our whole relationship.
Yeah. Can I make a little comment on that? As an aunt, I don't have, again, I know I'm learning from you guys as I want to have kids, but I don't yet. So as an aunt, I think about how my speech to the adults around me with children is really important for them. Because it's affecting the next group, right? So like, how am I talking to that parent in a way that is helping, not, even if there is an issue or whatever, but that's helpful.
Right.
Is this the time and place of doing it,
Right.
Yeah.
Teach them to resize.
Yeah.
I like it a lot because I feel like maybe we don't need to address the last several decades of all the issues we've had in this one moment, and maybe that's why there's so many blow-ups around the holidays.
Yeah.
And maybe we can take some planning to the next, we can plan when to have that appropriate conversation of like, when I want to set a new boundary with you, or let's talk about all these things in our past. Maybe the holidays are not necessarily the time for that. And just put a pause on that. And plan it another time.
Yeah. All right, to planning.
Planning.
I don't know.
I think we got it.
Planning.
Once again, thank you for joining us today. Please remember to rate, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And thank you for listening to Asking for a Friend.
Let us know what you thought of the episode. Our email is hello@afafpodcast.com. This show is for educational purposes only and is copyrighted. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. Thanks for listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc.